My name is Victor Chris, and if I will grow a magical plant, I will grow a magical plant that produces chicken because I love eating chicken.
My name is Judy Njeri, and if I could grow a magical plant, it will be a plant that produces chalks because I love writing.
I want to be a farmer so that I can eat all the fruits that I like and grow up healthy.
Today we're going to learn about container gardening, and it is important because it helps grow crops where there is limited space.
Hey everyone, do you know what's really cool? Container gardening. It might sound like a big word, but it's actually a small-scale superpower for farmers and our country, Kenya. Let me tell you why. You see, container gardening is like having a mini farm right at your fingertips. It's super important because it helps farmers grow more food even if they do not have a lot of space. This means more yummy vegetables and fruits for all of us to eat. And guess what? When we grow our own food, it can help end food security, which means making sure everyone has enough to eat. That's like being a superhero, right? But here's the real exciting part. Container gardening isn't just for farmers. Any of us can do it, even if we only have a small balcony or that big farm that large-scale farmers own. So when you plant some tomatoes or herbs in a pot, you are not just growing plants. You are helping our whole country become healthier and happier, one container at a time. So let's get our hands dirty, have fun, and make Kenya a greener and tastier place for everyone. But first, here is a big small interview with expert Njuguna as we ask all the questions you need answers on about how to set up and maintain a container garden.
Can you grow a watermelon in a container?
So you can grow watermelon in a container gardening because number one, there are some factors you consider when choosing a crop that you want to grow in your container or that you can grow in a container gardening. Number one, the crop must be shallow rooted. That is one thing. It should not be deep rooted because a container has some limited space. So the ones with tap roots, you cannot grow them. Number two, you can also do it because watermelon is a creeping crop, and of which it's very possible to do with the container gardening, as long as you have a container and then you make a frame structure to support the fruits and also the vines and all that. Yes, you can. Yeah.
Hello, expert Njuguna. What is the easiest vegetable to grow in a container?
So you can grow so many vegetables. Let me not say for the easiest, as long as you consider the factors. Number one, so you can grow, like example is, you can grow a spinach, you can grow a lettuce, you can grow kales, you can grow strawberries, and many others. As long as you consider the factors, number one should be shallow rooted. That is one thing. Number two should be creeping. Number three, that their fruits should not be too heavy, because if the fruits are too heavy, they won't they break up. That is, yeah. So as long as you consider that, you can grow any vegetable.
Hi, expert Njuguna. How often should I water my container plant?
So water your container plants. Number one, before you water them, first of all observe, because don't just water. Observe if there is water. If the soil is moist, then you can water. Yeah? Because number one, even if our containers has those holes on the lower side, in case you water too much also, maybe the water won't drain very fast, and that water would affect your crops. So I will say this: water, number one, observe when the soil is dry, because if the soil is moist, it can go for some other day or 2 days before you water. Yeah? But in case the soil is drying up, water at least maybe once in a week or twice per week, as you observe your crops, because too much water is dangerous, because some crops are sensitive to waterlogging.
What is the best type of soil for container gardening?
Okay, let me say this. When you are doing your container gardening, number one, ensure that your soil is fertile. That is one thing, because soil is there, yes, but fertility is another factor. Yeah? Because the more the soil is fertile, the better the produce. And then ensure that your soil is well drained. That means that can't hold water for long. That is it. So ensure your soil is fertile. So I would say this in simple terms. It is a well drained, fertile soil. Fertility, you can boost it with manure, maybe farmyard manure, compost manure, or maybe what we call inorganic fertilizers. Examples of CN, DAP and the others. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Njuguna. Can we use any container in container gardening?
I would say you can't use any container because there are some things you have to consider. Containers are made from so many things. Number one, we can have a wooden container, we can have a plastic container, we can have a metallic container. Yeah, I would say this. Number one, plastic, I agree, because even when you use a plastic container, you conserve environment. Because that could be it has maybe a hole or such, maybe it was a jerrycan or something else. So you are recycling it and reusing that container. Yeah, so you can use so many containers, but avoid metallic containers, because number one, given that you are planting your crop there, number one, there is soil, and that soil contains some other maybe bacteria and other things that can affect your metal or such. So because of that water which has oxygen, and then we have your metal, that is iron, they do react, and that causes what we call rusting. So when you use a metallic container, it rusts at the end of the day, and once it rusts, can't be long lasting. So number one, I would prefer a plastic container of which you are concerned with the environment. So go for plastic containers, and you can use any plastic, any that you have in your homes, be it a jerrycan, be it a karai, or any other that you have and it is not in use. But avoid metallic containers because they won't go for long, given that at the end of the day they last. Let me say this: when you keep your containers, ensure that number one, your containers get enough sunlight, because sunlight is very important because of what? Photosynthesis. If plant would get enough sunlight, won't make enough food. So ensure that your crops get enough sunlight. So let me say at the balconies, don't just keep them anywhere. You can hang them at the end of your balcony. Hang them there, or keep them in the frames that's around your balcony. Somewhere they are accessing what? The sunlight. That is it. Not must sun directly, but sunlight and enough sunlight.
Hi, expert Njuguna. Do I need to fertilize my container plants?
So I will say yes. But let me say this before I answer your question. There are types of fertilizers. You have to run that one. Number one, we have organic fertilizers and inorganic fertilizers. So I don't know how your question was, but let me say this. Organic fertilizers, you can add them, and you should add them. These are examples of kitchen waste, or fertilizers from kitchen waste. That is, those are organic fertilizers. Those from remains of living things. So you can have compost manure, you can add farmyard manure, or any other manure that you have back at home. So you also have inorganic fertilizers. Examples of example is when you're planting your seedlings, you can add what we call DAP, that is diammonium phosphate, which helps in for the crop to produce their roots. That is one thing. Then as they grow, you can top dress your seedlings using CAN, what we call calcium ammonium nitrate. That is for top dressing, and you can do it. But I would say this: avoid inorganic fertilizers, because number one, not safe for your health, and also they are not good for environment. So go for organic fertilizers, what you produce at home or what you can use from your area, be it from animals and other places.
Hi, expert Njuguna. How can we prevent pests from our container gardening?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So these crops, because they are basically crops, so we expect pests to attack them at one stage or another. Let me say this, because we have so many pests, and which are common in every crop, aphids and the others. So what you do is you can control your pest using about 4 or 5 methods. Number one, you can use the biological methods. That is one thing. Number two, you can use the chemical method. Number three, you can use physical method. When I'm saying about chemical method, I'm saying that you go to a shop and buy the locally available chemicals. Then you spray your crops using a sprayer or something else. Then on physical, so to grow, examples of you had picked the pest. You can go and pick them one by one, and then you have controlled your pest. Number three, we have the other one whereby you can use a biological, maybe use another animal or maybe a living thing to control the pest. And I can give an example of aphids with ladybird. In case your sukuma, your kales or anything else affected by the aphids, look for a ladybird, add on your crops, and then you control those aphids. Then you'll have controlled those pests. But I would say this: avoid chemical method because of your own health and all that. And because you're not going for commercial, avoid chemical method. Do physical and use biological method. Yes.
How do I choose the right size container for my plant?
So thank you for the question. The size of the container is a factor to consider when you're doing container gardening. Why? Reason being number one, assume you use a small sized container. What will happen? Remember that this crop, even if it is shallow rooted, has its own roots. The question is, where do those roots go to? That's the question. So do this. When you look for your container, look for a good sized container, because number one, the roots of the crop need some space to extend, and look for the nutrients. That's something to consider when you're choosing your container. Yeah? Number two, that this container also, you are doing a lot of watering. So therefore, consider that space for watering your seedling. Number three, the crop also needs its own space for it to grow. Yeah? So those three factors you have to consider them, but avoid, maybe depending on the crop you are growing, choose the size of the container. Yeah? But I will say that don't grow them on small containers whereby they are squeezed and they cannot even get enough nutrients from the soil that you have added to your crop.
What is the best way to start a container garden from seeds?
So it's very easy to establish a garden from seeds. What you do is, in case you want to go for seeds, you can do, or seedlings, depending on what you are planting. Maybe assume you are doing spinach. You go for seedlings, and these seedlings you can do them on your own, or you can source from a certified seeder, of which they are available locally. So what you do is, either if you're going for the seeds, maybe you can buy the seeds also, do your own nursery, then you transplant, and from that one you have to follow every step and every stage that you have that you should consider when you're growing your seedlings. So from seeds you can go either way, either seeds directly or seedlings, depending on the crop that you are growing. But I think it is very easy for the two.
What's the smallest container I can use for herbs?
So the smallest container you can do for your herbs, so let me say this, depends on the herb. On the herb. So if the herb is maybe they consider the root, that's one thing, and the space, but you can use any container as long as it won't be squeezed, because you have to consider space for watering and space for the crop. Yeah. So we are taking a short commercial break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. So we are going to show you how we can do container gardening, and as I had said earlier, you can use a variety of gardening, what to call container gardening, be it a node gin, be it a tire, be it a container that you have like a jerry can and others. Those are what we call the cans. So for today, we'll be using a can, this one, and of which we have already cut it. So as you can see, so we have removed the top part of the can. So our container is here, and then you also have another container here, because I want us to do two. That is for today. So normally what you do is, because when you do container gardening, you must ensure that there are holes in your container on the lower side of the container, and this will help to remove excess water and ensure that your soil is well drained. Because if you have excess water here, or if there is no hole, what happens is your crop becomes waterlogged and they dry and they die off, and you lose your plant. So our first step is having identified our container, and we have it here, and also now we want to go to have those holes before we go to planting. So I have a nail with me here. It is here. I have a nail here, and with your nail, also use a hammer. And I think all of us, we can access a hammer somewhere, or if not have a hammer, you can even use a stone or anything else that can hit a nail and make a hole. So for now, I want us to make holes in our containers as it is here. So you can make as many holes as you can, depending on the size of the hole. If the hole is big enough, you can make fewer holes. If the holes are small, make as many as you can to allow enough drainage of water. So I have my container here, and then we also have another one here. So we are going to make two. They are here. So I have yours, and I have my nail here. So once you have yours, I'll just overturn it, and then I have my stone here with my nail. Then I'll hit. You press your nail on your container, and then you hit it using your hammer or using anything that you are using. So already I have made my first hole in my container. So let's go to the second one. Let's go to the second hole. We have the second one. It is ready. It is there. I have my second hole. She also has hers. Then you go to the third one. Another hole. I have my other hole. It is here. You also have yours. Let's go to the other one. So we're going to the fourth hole. That's my fourth hole. I've made it. So what you do is you make as many holes as you can, depending on size of the hole. Like mine here, they are not that big, so I can make more and more depending on that size. So if the holes are big enough, make few, so as you won't even have what you call excess draining, so as some water can be retained on your container. So once you do that, you have your soil with you, and then I also have my manure. So for today, I am using farmyard manure, and basically I'm using chicken manure. Chicken manure is what we are using for today. What I do is we'll add our manure to the soil that we have here. We add our manure to the soil, and then once we do that, mix for me that soil. You mix soil and manure, and you mix thoroughly to ensure that they are well mixed. So mix properly. So yeah, it is set now. It's ready. So once our manure and soil is ready, what to do is have your container with you. Then add now the mixed soil with manure to your container. We have added the container. Ours is there, and then or as you confirm, remove all the stones and any other foreign materials that you don't need in your container. Yeah, I have done that. So you can add your manure or your soil to a given level. So maybe you can add depending on the crop that you're planting and the nutrient requirement of your crop. So I have mine here. So once you do that, now my soil is ready for planting, and now we can do our planting. Before we do our planting, we water because our soil is dry and our manure is dry. Yeah? So you do some watering. So let me have someone to water for me the container. So water for me. Yeah, water for me. Water enough. So don't add excess water. And then once you add your water, allow the container to drain the water, so as the excess can flow through the holes that we made in the container. So once you do that, then now we can go the next step. I'm waiting for my soil to drain, and then I can have my seedling planted. And let me say this: when you're planting any crop, you can either use a seed or a seedling. That is a seed if you're planting directly, or a seedling in case you established your seeds in a nursery. So for my case here, I'll be using a seed. And then I plant in my container because I want to establish kunde. That is and the fact is I want to establish kunde in a container. So I'll have my kunde seeds, and of which they are certified, both them. And then I'll add my container, and now my crop will be good to grow. So I take my seed, and then I add to the container. So ensure that when you're planting your seed, don't plant it too deep, because if you plant it too deep, you affect the rate of germination, and your crop will either die off or will take a long of time to get established. So I already have established my crop or my seed, and now I'm waiting for a harvest. So let me say this: once you establish your crop, you now start carrying out what you call the routine management practices that you have to do to your crops. Number one is what we have just done. We have done what we call watering. I think I've seen us doing it. And then after you water, and let me say this: in case you have those worries of lack of establishment, you can add two seeds or such. Together, that is it. So, but for mine, I added one because I'm using certified seeds, and I'm sure that germination rate is a bit high. So once you water your seedlings and your seedling and your seed is established, and now you have your plant, you start managing it. So in case you had two seeds, try to see which one is the weaker one, which one is healthy and strong. So the healthy and the strong one, let it grow, and then you remove the weaker one, and the one that does not look that healthy or that good. So and you remove it through uprooting. In a thing we call it thinning. You do thinning, removing the excess seedlings. That is one thing. So assume that your crop was not established. What do you do here? You go back to the container, you add another seed, what we call gapping. You replace the roast seedlings, or the roast seeds in the container. So for our case, I'm hoping it will germinate, so as we can avoid that that gapping, or that replacement. So once you replace your seedling and now you have your crop established, there are things you have to observe. Number one, the issues of weed. That's one thing you have to observe. So make sure that your container does not have weed at all. Why? Because number one, in case your container or your seed, your crop has seeds in it, has pests in it, those pests, they have a lot of adverse effects. Number one, the pests, the weed soil, they compete for nutrients with the available with the available nutrients with the crop. So avoid weeds as much as you can. So that is one thing. Because when these weeds compete with the crop that you are growing, remember that weeds are unwanted. Is that true? They are unwanted. Then why should you let it grow in your container gardening? So remove it and grow it. Also, those weeds even inhibit. They inhibit those diseases and pests. Actually, those pests, they sometimes hide on the weeds, and then they attack your crop that you are interested in growing. That is it. So on the same also, do a lot of weeding. That's number one. Number two, do watering when required. Number three, you do thinning. You remove the excess. You do gapping. In case your seedling was not established, plant another seed in your container. That is it. So we can also carry other management practices. Examples of row giving. Row giving is simply removing the deceased. Are you together? Though, if in case you planted your crop and it is not healthy, it is deceased, remove it and throw it away, or even burn it. So there are many others. You should also control pests, because this container gardening, these crops, they are not exempted from pests, be it they are in a container. So when the common pests are those aphids and the others. So control those pests from your container gardening. Because those pests also, they have their own effects. Also control diseases from your crops. Diseases. And the diseases are different depending on the plant or the crop that you are growing. But I think that is it. So before I end up my teaching today, I would wish to say this, that you can establish any crop as long as you consider three factors or three questions. Number one, the first question is the crop you are establishing shallow rooted? That is one thing. Because for this container, you cannot establish a deep rooted crop. You cannot establish a deep rooted crop. Assume you are planting a deep rooted crop. Where will the roots go to? That taproot, it will be in the air together, and that means that crop won't grow or won't last for long until won't last for a long time. So you can plant any shallow rooted together, and also whose fruits are not too heavy. So avoid crops or plants that have heavy fruits. Are you together up to there? Yes. Number three, your crop should be creeping. Those are factors to consider when establishing a container gardening. Then for this container, you can place it like they have placed ours. We have them very well in lots and all that. But also, in case you don't have space like this one, you can use available space at home, or also around your school. Example is we have around the balconies. That's one thing, or one place that you can put our containers. Be it at the balconies, be it at the kitchen, backyard. You see the kitchen backyard around there. Be it along the windows, be it at the corridors. Are you together? Be it along the driveways, be it along the pathways and other areas. So you can keep your containers anywhere. And I think we can establish as many containers as we can. And also we can produce in our homes as many crops as we can. And also we can have a lot of food in our homes. Be it spinach, be it vegetables, even fruits we can do. By the way, do you see fruits? Some fruits, examples of like grapes, yes. We can do strawberry, that's something else. We can even do mangoes. We can do so many other. As long as, even oranges, as long as the crop is a dwarf, right together, it won't grow to a big tree. Actually, we have some established fruits in containers. I know of them. They are somewhere. So you can do it for any crop, as long as you consider those factors. Yeah.